reason.
You pick your
I'm not
poison.
saying
Yeah,
I'm not saying a person.
yeah, right.
I never acquired a taste for coffee, so
I didn't either.
it's not a bad thing for me to say no. I don't need coffee.
I was always told that coffee is an acquired taste, and you
Yeah.
just drink enough of it until it tastes good. I didn't know that coffee is actually supposed to taste good, and it's supposed to have flavor.
Yeah.
And different beans from different countries and different farms are all different. And so once I figured that out, it was
A whole new world.
it was.
A whole
it was.
new world. Oh, I was gonna do it with you.
Yeah.
We were gonna vibe on that one.
I can hit notes very well.
Goodness.
That is awesome. Okay, so we are kicking off Beyond the Bean with Linda at T3 Coffee Roasters. You're all the way out in Collinsville.
Yeah,
How was the drive?
it was nice.
Yeah. Would you
Not too
169 or 75 here?
Um,
It's like day and night difference too.
it is. I take 75.
Yeah.
75 is nice. Country.
75, 44.
Oh, back road feel to it to some degree.
So this is another really exciting and invigorating episode of the Brews and Business podcast, the T3 Coffee Roasters. So as we just mentioned, Linda's here in the studio with us, and she brought a 601 blend, bold, dark intensity without the bitterness, dark chocolate and earthy granola flavor with a hint of nuttiness. Great for espresso drinks or as a drip brew. Do you have this in whole bean?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
I need 5 pounds of it.
We do 5 pounds. We do everything from 12 ounces to 32-pound tubs.
Okay. I think 5 pounds will last my office 3 months.
Wait, so let me we haven't even started the podcast. Would you, if you
We're
were to
live
buy,
right now.
if
Yeah,
you would,
we're rolling.
Oh, yeah,
I know
we're
we're
rolling,
rolling, but we
baby.
didn't, proper introduction. Anyways, would you like a 32-pound tub? Is that only whole bean or is it?
Oh, we can do that ground too.
But would you want to?
She's like, how do you like it?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, I
It-
drink a lot of Folgers. I'd love to support local.
It's a little better than Folgers.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot that's better than Folgers. I'm not gonna lie, but that's just what the office drinks. But I mean, if we could support local and 32 pounds instead of having to go buy those jugs from Sam's every couple of months, not even every couple of months, every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Could you
Anyhow.
get that trash can over there?
Yeah.
For me? I'll get up if you don't want
No.
to. Okay.
So, I want to get into it. T3 Roasters.
Yeah.
How'd you guys get started? What happened there?
So we never really intended on having a coffee business. It just kind of happened. It's just one of
Yeah,
those
that
things.
looks
It started as a hobby, really. My husband Gary is our roaster, and it was his hobby. And like I said, at the time, I wasn't even drinking coffee. He just couldn't find any good coffee that he liked, and he worked in the oil field. There's a lot of sludge out there, and so a friend of his taught him how to roast. He started roasting on a cast iron skillet in our kitchen.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
You can do that?
Yeah, you can.
I know. I'm
you
like, I
can.
totally have to buy some.
Okay,
Like,
because I thought you had to buy because I know a lot of people can do it on the stove, and then it's almost like a popcorn maker,
Mhm, mhm.
right?
There's
It's
all
still the
sorts of
same
ways.
way,
There's
but-
all sorts of ways you can do it. Yeah. So he just started
I
kind
wanna
of
do that.
roasting. And then I said his background's in engineering and physics. So he actually took a tabletop countertop popcorn popper and turned that into a coffee roaster. And he could roast enough beans, for like a pot of coffee. And so he'd
That's
roast,
cool.
he'd bring it to the office. We'd have friends and family over and, make him a pot of coffee.
It's fine.
And
It's
then
fine.
people started asking, where can, how can we get this coffee? So he actually built our first small scale roaster.
oh wow,
I
I like this guy
built it
already.
himself. Yeah. So he built it himself, and
I'm going to make more.
Okay,
All right.
we'll get her
We don't
first
have enough.
since she brought it.
I mean, there's a
hey,
whole
I've had it before. You guys,
there's a whole bag right there. So
So
we're not
so
gonna run out.
He built your first roaster.
So he built our first roaster, and we started roasting for just for friends and
I'll try.
family. It just kind of became a hobby on the side, and we figured if people were gonna buy it, we should
yeah.
make a little side business of it. So that's kind of what we did. So we actually officially launched our business in February of 2020.
Perfect
And
time
then
to start a
perfect timing.
business.
So we'd actually been roasting for quite a few years before that. But when we actually started selling, and then when the world shut down, all of a sudden everybody that was getting their coffee in the office and our friends couldn't get it. So we started sending coffee out to people. Everybody wanted everybody's coffee, and everybody went home and their coffee intake increased. So, everybody started wanting to support local. We started selling at local farmers markets that year, and it was really just as a way to get out of the house. We wanted to be
For
around
sure.
people, be social, be safe. So we took a couple bags of coffee. Didn't ever think that people would actually buy the coffee, but we just went out to have fun. And at the end of that market season, we had a customer base that we didn't even we didn't realize we had. So at the end of market, everybody said, well, how can we get your beans if you're not going to be out here every week? So we started a website, so people can start ordering during the off season. That first holiday season, people gifted coffee to friends and family.
Yeah.
So we saw an increase in sales then, and in January our sales kept going up. So it really just happened very organically. It was not
That's
not
awesome.
ever a plan
Beautiful.
to happen, but said now Gary and I both were able to do this full time, and we're getting ready to open our first brick and mortar location and brand new roastery, and so it really has just kind of taken off and just
That's
kind of happened.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
That is cool. So, um, I want to go back. I know you said that you may not know so much once we start asking about the roasting, but roasting on a cast iron, how do you do that? You just literally just roast it on the stove?
Pretty much.
And just kind of keep stirring
Mhm.
till it
What?
cooks.
It's that
Mhm.
simple?
Mhm.
There's
Well, I mean, I know there's a science
I mean,
to
it
like
is, but it
temperature and
isn't.
there's
stuff.
a
Yeah,
little bit of
yeah,
a
yeah,
science to
right.
it, and so it's done by like cracks, and I think
Mhm.
it's at like 165 degrees or 185, something like that. Like the first crack happens, and that's
Mhm.
where you
Wait,
get
what?
like your mild roast,
Mhm.
and then you get another crack, which then hits your dark roast, and by then you kind of can easily cross a boundary between it being a dark roast and burnt.
Mhm.
Well, that's what
Yeah,
I was
and it
thinking. Is
happens.
like,
Like-
what?
It happens fast.
That's exactly what
And
I'm
the
like. Wait,
longer
with
does.
the
that you
cast
roast
iron?
it, the more of the caffeine that burns off or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. So one of the cool things. So now we have a big commercial we actually have 2 Diedrich roasters, um, and they're all computer controlled, or
Nice.
or not controlled, but we can track 13 different variables within the entire roast process. So we can give that consistency to our roast, being able to track all of that. Um, and then now we have the capability. So each machine can roast about 25 pounds a batch. A batch lasts anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes, just depending on the bean. So we could roast over 100 pounds an hour each machine. So when we have both of them going,
Wow.
um,
That's a lot of coffee.
It's a lot of beans.
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of beans,
A
a
lot
lot
of
of coffee.
beans.
So you said you're about to open up your brick and mortar. What does that
Yeah.
look like? What is I think I walked in the middle of that story. So what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we have a old building down in Collinsville in their downtown area, just off of Main Street. 115-year-old building, and we have been doing a
Cool.
full historic preservation on that building. And so we have done a lot of work over there, and we've been working on it the last 2 years. And so we'll be able to move our entire warehouse, roastery production. And then we'll also have a small cafe and retail area so people can come in and not only get the beans, but get a cup of coffee as well. And so it really is just a place for people to come and hang out, bring your friends. We're not a drive-through.
Those have been, I hate those. They're so overrated. Like the Seven Brews, Dutch Bros, Scooters. I'm like, nah.
Yeah,
You
I was just
know.
thinking whenever she's talking, I was like, yeah, that's
They're
Collinsville's little double
they all
shot.
do
That's awesome.
they all
Yeah.
do like a milk with some like a bunch of sugar, and then it feels like some coffee flavoring,
Mhm.
and then I feel like those are like basically they're competing with McDonald's coffee. And
Well,
then you kind of go to Starbucks, and then I'm like, if you really want to experience coffee, you go local.
mhm.
You go to T3 and you get an espresso cortado and something. You really get to experience like how you guys roast it and where
Mhm.
you source your beans. And there's things that like will vary on how the coffee tastes. You guys could have your beans and another coffee shop could have the other ones, and you get an espresso at 2 different places and they're completely different. You could even get one that's both South American coffee, It could be from Colombia or wherever, and the espressos will taste completely different. The machines will alter that too. How they froth the milk, if the barista froths it and cuts it right, then if it's right temperature, like all this stuff will make it taste
There's
different.
all
So,
sorts of stuff that affect the flavor. So where the beans were. I mean, you could have two beans from the same country but different farms, and the soil concentration is going to be different, and so that's going
yep.
to change the way the beans were processed, if they were
S-
wet processed or
Or
dry
dry
processed.
process.
Yep,
Yep.
all of that makes a difference. The roasting process, how it was roasted.
If it's air roasted or what's the
hmm
other method?
So there's like air roasted and drum roasted.
Drum and air. Yeah, yeah.
And so, yes, the roasting process makes a difference. How long the beans have been roasted. So that's one of the things that we do with our beans, is we don't do dark roast and light roast. A lot of people will get the question of, oh, what's the darkest roast you have? Or, we're a true dark roast person. Every bean has its own unique roast profile to bring out the best flavor in the bean. So this morning I brought you guys 601. That is our roast. We don't have 601 dark roast and 601 light. Like that's going to bring out the best flavor in those beans. Um, so
So
yeah,
you,
your water temperature changes the
Water
flavor.
temperature. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a big
yeah.
one.
All
Yeah.
of that can make a
The
difference.
grind.
Mm-hmm.
So like what I did is I grind this just a little finer, and it's really dark. And I'll show you like where we leave it to like where the way that she had it. It's going to be a little lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I use 2 tablespoons per 6 ounces.
About right.
That's about right.
It's preference.
What do
How
you do?
strong you want it.
1 tablespoon per six? Does it matter? Do
So
do you have your own science?
we actually measure up by grams.
Or grams?
Yeah, we
Technically,
measure it out.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. When you want to get real
So
technical
like
on it.
18 grams is what you should use for an espresso shot, double espresso.
Yep.
Hmm.
So do you guys have the scale and
Coffee.
everything for? Do you guys do that with every shot? And
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have one of the big fancy grinders now that weighs it out for you and measures it all out and
oh, that's cool.
all of that
That's
stuff.
great.
comes
So
out to the gram.
it does.
That's
Wow.
It
cool.
does.
So you guys started in your kitchen.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And now, when we first got in touch, or you first inquired to be on the show, it was like back in the summer, and I believe, and then you wanted to have the storefront open by November. So, what are some things that caused that delay?
So in construction and in anything, there's all sorts of delays. So, waiting for contractors, waiting for permits, waiting for all those things. Even now, we were supposed to have our windows and we're waiting for like one piece of glass for our windows that was supposed to be installed this week. Well, they broke the glass.
Oh
And
no!
so now it'll be, Monday, hopefully, when we get that up. So there's just weather delays. We had a cold snap a couple weeks ago and that was, a delay. So there's always something.
Welcome to business.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think that I have talked to a single person that has done anything on their time frame. And you live and you learn and you figure it out along the way. And we were stupid enough to think when we got our building that we would be done in 4 to 6 months. And we're 24 months down the road, but we're opening next week.
I think
So
the typical business owner naiveness is one of our strengths.
yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, we can get that done in no time, and then you're like, "Well, I'm already here, so I have to finish it now."
yeah,
And then you're
yeah.
like, so you're just in it. You know?
Yeah. But it's been great. It's been a process. It's been a journey. We've loved every step of the way, and it is a good feeling to know that we are just days away. I mean, we're like single digits counting down, and we're opening up next week. So
So you
That's
said
awesome.
you
Gary's like, "Are we there yet?"
yeah, almost.
you have was you 12 or 14 different countries that you guys source beans from?
Yeah, so we get all of our beans are all fully traceable direct from our farmers. And so I think that's one thing that's interesting that I didn't know until I got into coffee, that coffee's a crop, right? Like you
Mhm.
go to the store and there's always coffee on the shelf. I never thought about where it came from. And there is a big difference between commercial beans and specialty beans and things like that too. And so our numbers are always change a little bit slightly, just depending on the season and things like that and the different relationships that we have. And so I think right now, like I said, we're up to, I think 12 different countries representing 14 different farms. So we've got beans. We do both single origin and blends. So not all of our beans are just, some of them are blended into other things. And the difference with that is, like a single origin bean is like one bean from one farm.
Mhm.
It's just that pure thing. And then a blend would be just a recipe. It's multiple beans from, different countries or different areas blended together to make a unique flavor. So 601 is one of our signature blends that we created.
How many
For
blends do you guys
our
have for sale?
So blends we have so that's a good question. I think we have about 3 to 4 blends and about 4 single origins that we offer.
Cool.
So
I
we're,
think there's like
I'm looking
9 on
here.
our
So
website
you
right
have the
now.
601. You have the Cafe du Agua.
Diarc.
Diarc. Okay, I
Diarc.
tried to sound cool with that. Okay.
I know.
The
So
dancing.
that is our true. People want dark coffee. Our Cafe Diarc is our only true dark roast that we have.
What's the dancing goat?
The dancing goat is our Ethiopian. It's a single origin Ethiopian.
Those are typically earthy.
They are,
Right.
yeah. It's really good. And so the origin story of coffee is coffee was actually founded in Ethiopia by a goat farmer. Is the legend of how coffee was originated and first discovered. And so that's why our Ethiopian coffee is dancing goat, to pay homage to the goat farmers.
Okay. Uh, you
that's
got no
that's a
worries
slippery
when you
slope.
drink the Akuna Matata.
Uh-huh.
What's
That's our
that?
that's our Kenyan coffee,
Kenyan.
our single
Okay.
origin.
La Morena.
La
Brown
Morena.
sugar.
Yes, so La Morena is our Guatemalan coffee.
Oh, my favorite.
It is so good. So that
Guatemalans.
one,
I mean, the soil and everything that they do out there, they're lucky.
so that's one of my favorite coffees. That's also our La Morena is grown exclusively by women farmers.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And all of that coffee goes to support women in the coffee trade. And so that is an amazing coffee.
That's cool. That is very cool.
It's like the best sounds.
Dramatic effect.
Yeah.
Like sound effects and everything in here. It's
It is
fancy.
great. The Omega.
So the Omega is another blend that we have.
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning is our signature blend. That was actually our first blend that we ever created, even before we had a coffee business. That was our very first one.
Greg woke up Sunday morning and he's like, I want some coffee. I'm gonna brew. I'm gonna
You got
put
the
this on the
cast iron
stove
out,
and cast
you know.
iron out. He's probably worked on it for about 6 hours.
Yeah.
Whatever. Actually, he probably prepped it on Saturday. And then Sunday he woke up and he's like, I'm gonna have me that Sunday morning. I'm gonna call it Sunday morning. I don't know. Swiss water decaf.
So that's our decaf that we have.
Okay.
So Sunday morning is like our
What's
breakfast
decaf?
blend. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
There's a time and place for decaf.
There is. Yeah.
Well, that's what I asked earlier, and I was like, "Well, when would you want to drink a decaf?" She's like, "Well, before bed." I'm like, "Oh, I could get that because sometimes, I mean, I'm Mexican, so in our culture, you drink coffee all day long, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I remember my parents like drinking a coffee and eating like a sweet bread right before bed." I'm like, "That's delicious. I do that now," but I'm like, "Okay, that can make sense." But then again, I could drink a Red Bull to go to sleep, so
Yeah.
I'm
So in
just have coffee.
the great thing about our Swiss water, so the Swiss water process is a non-chemical decaffeination process. So I don't know how much anybody knows about the decaffeination of coffee, but coffee beans do not grow naturally non-caffeinated. So there's all sorts of different processes out there. A lot of them involve some pretty harsh chemicals. So with our Swiss water, it is water and steam that uses that process. So it's a
That pulls the caffeine
Mhm.
out of it. Okay.
Mhm.
That's cool. So, of all the many things that you guys do on a day-to-day basis, what is it that you do? What is it that Greg does, and how do you guys make all that work?
So Gary is our roaster, and so he does all of our roasting, all of kind of the business side of things, all that stuff, and then I do everything else. So I do all of our labeling, all of our packaging, I fill the bags, I deliver them, I do our social media, I do our network marketing, um, everything else, pretty
Like
much.
why you're here today.
Why I'm here today,
There you
yeah.
go. You guys also you mentioned something about being advocates for against child labor and unjust practices in coffee trade. Those two different things. Where do those kind of stem from? Like how that like why those? Why that?
So there's a lot that goes into like other things. There's a lot of unjust practices within the coffee trade. And so that's one thing that was really important to us when we were starting our business and really even before just with coffee. And why it's so important that we know where our beans came from. So we know those practices. one of the things that, child labor is huge in coffee. Coffee is mostly in developing countries. There's kind of a coffee belt because most coffee is grown at high altitudes and warm temperatures, and so there's kind of a process, a strip where a lot of the beans come from, and so um, one of the things that we learned is that a lot of these countries, schools are out during harvest season. It's kind of like a spring break or fall break or things like that. And so these parents, as parents, your kids are out of school. What are you going to do with them? So,
Put
you
in the
take them
work
to
with
work
you.
with you. Yeah. So, so one of the cool things, like I said, with our La Morena coffee, which I love, it's a great coffee in itself. It's grown exclusively by women farmers. It actually started with a group of 23 women that got together, and now that program is has grown. I think now multiple countries, and I forget how many women are in that project. But what was so amazing about it is what started with a group of 23 women. They got together, they worked with some of our partners that are on the ground there, and were able to come up with a great product and a great coffee. Their very first harvest that they had, they harvested 2,000 pounds of coffee
Oh,
from their farms collectively, which is great. That's a lot of coffee. But to put that in perspective, for us as T3, we go through about 1,000 pounds of coffee a week. So just as a small a small roaster here in the Tulsa area, their entire harvest would last us 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so now they're able to fill full containers of coffee, and things like that. And so after that program became sustainable and became successful, people started asking the question, well, what else can we do? There's more than just women farmers in this community. And so they got together and commissioned a group of women artisans to create a bracelet. It is the La Morena bracelet. It's really cool. I actually wear it when I go places, and it tells the story of the coffee bean.
oh,
Um, and it's got their La Morena logo. So they were able to do a kickstart with these group of women artisans to be able to continue to tell the story of coffee. So now, they're not only helping the farmers, now they're helping the artisans, and that's been going on for a couple of years and has become really successful. And so then the next question was, well, what else can we do down here? So we know that child labor is huge. So they started a program called Coffee Kindergarten, farmers to be able to go to during the season when there's no school. And so it basically becomes like a daycare program. So the kids can come, they're given 2 meals a day, they get to have fun, they get to be kids, they get to play, they get to continue their education, and do all of these things while their parents are out working, and they're not out in the fields with their parents. And so yeah, so it's just things like that. So our tagline, for our business is actually local coffee, global impact. And so we get to be that local spot. Like I said, we're in our cafe, we're not a drive-through. We purposefully did not put in a drive-through. There's a time and a place for that. Sometimes you just need a coffee quick to go, and I get that. And we tell people, if you're coming to Collinsville, there's other places, and they still use our beans, so you're still going to support some great businesses. But we want to be a place where people can come and gather, and be a hub for the community, and have an impact in our local community. We give back a lot, through fundraising programs, through donations, through things like that. But then we also get to have that global impact of knowing where our beans came from, having that sustainability and that traceability. So yeah, so that's kind of where that comes from for us.
And you guys do some fundraising.
that's
We do,
awesome.
yeah.
So for like schools, PTO, is that what it is? PTO programs?
Yeah, so we'll do a fun
PTA clubs, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so any group that's looking to raise money for their organization, now during the holiday season, it's one of our busiest times of year for fundraisers. But we work with schools, with sports teams, with churches. We worked with adult groups as well, nonprofits, all that kind of stuff to be able to raise money. So what we do is we actually create a custom label and a custom bag for you to be able to sell. So you get a product, we put your organization's name on it, your logo, school colors, all that kind of stuff. We give you the back of the bag to customize with your text, any information you want to give out, thanking your
Like this part
customers,
here.
like that part there.
Okay.
Yeah, gets to be customized. And then you get to go out and sell that coffee. So I worked with youth for 20 years. I've done all the fundraisers, and I know how horrible they are, and what a nightmare. And now, my daughter being in school, she's coming home every week with different fundraisers. And so when we designed ours, we designed it as a fundraiser that I would enjoy doing as a leader. So it is low risk, high profit. So everything is done through pre-order. So there's no money, no risk up front. There's very low minimum quantities that we require. And then our groups go out, they sell the coffee, they turn that all back into us. We fill it, they write us a check and keep the rest of it and get all the coffee.
So it's not like Girl Scout cookies where you have to buy them in boxes and sell them.
No, yeah, it's just all done through pre-orders.
That's
So,
good.
yeah, we just
That's why they're
delivered
so
over 200
aggressive.
bags this morning
Yeah.
for a
They're like
band.
car sales.
Rid of those boxes of cookies, or some man upstairs is gonna come knocking.
Yeah.
This way, you just sell what you can sell, of course, but you don't have to hassle people to get rid of those boxes. You're like, I don't want to haul those back home.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a whole
yeah.
that's a whole chore.
It is. I've been there, done that too.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, yeah, it's work for sure.
Yeah, so we help groups raise thousands of dollars. We work with schools. We just, like I said, just did a fundraiser for a band. We've worked with the Owasso band, Collinsville band. We worked with a church group, raising money to go to Ukraine to work with refugees.
Oh, that's cool.
So I mean, we've done all sorts of really cool stuff with that.
Where do you think that you have failed the most since you started? Is there anything that stands out where it's like, man, shit hit the fan, and there's, maybe you learned something from it, or maybe you didn't.
Dude, we fail every day. I mean, there is
Every day.
But hopefully you're failing
day.
forward.
Yeah. There's so many things. This whole thing has been a learning process, and we've learned from everything. One of the things we were talking about our website, right? We didn't really know what we needed, and just kind of learning along the way. And we learned you get what you pay for.
I learned that too.
Yeah. So designing a website. So this was actually really, really interesting because we were doing all of this during, the COVID era. And we actually had a really great designer that we were working with. We loved him. He was wonderful. He was, small business working for us. He ended up getting COVID during this process and sadly did not make it.
Oh, wow.
And so we lost everything that he had been working on, and trying to be in a hustle to, we were ready to launch and go. We kind of found the cheapest person we can find that could do it. And it was a nightmare. It was a big learning experience, and we learned that you get what you pay for. And so we do have an amazing website now, and have moved forward through that. I think growing pains, we fail a lot through growing pains. That's one of the things that we have tried to do as a business is we want to grow, but we don't want to grow too fast. So we can keep up with that. But there's just some times where, you get a lot going on and you miss orders. And let me tell you, when people don't have their coffee, they get mad. Like they will come knocking on your door to get their coffee. And so, just trying to make sure that we stay on top of everything's going out on a timely manner. People are getting their orders on time, things like that. And I mean, there's been times where honestly we've messed up, or we've failed, we've missed an order, things like that. Just this morning, I said I've filled an order, 200 bags out the door, came home, went back in the shop, and there was one bag sitting there on
Oh,
the
no.
that didn't get in the
Just
box.
one.
It's funny you say that you miss orders and stuff like that happens. And I heard you say earlier that you do everything else, right? Your husband does the back end work of making the bean, right? But you're like, I do everything else. And here lately I've been laughing, and my team and I have been going back and forth. I'm like, you come to realization, because we were working with one of our vendors the other day, and I saw a ticket that came through, and it was short at least $800. And I was like, no, I owe them money. Like, I know I owe them money. The rock that we got is not that. And Laura, my office manager, she's like, yeah, well, we need to make sure we call them. We need to make that right, and so on and so forth. Well, she calls later on that day, and she's like, hey, we need to fix this. And then today, I don't remember what it was, but something we got a bill for some sod from like October. We're like, it's November. Like, what are you doing just now sending me this bill? And we just laugh. We're like, it just goes to show that we really are all human. We are
Yeah.
all human. We're all small business owners, and you choose to work with those people because you realize there's someone there.
Yeah.
Instead of, I hate to say it, but the big corporations, like, yeah, there's a certain thing you expect from McDonald's, Walmart, all those things. There is, and it's kind of hard to give that leniency there. But I love working with small business owners and just working with people in general because it's like it's really refreshing to just be able to have a honest conversation. Like for instance, for me with that stone, I had to call these people and knowing I already owe them like 6 grand, but hey, you're short that ticket $600 and you can go ahead and charge a card for that. And they're like, oh, that's awesome. And I was like, and that's just a relationship thing where it's like we're human. We all make mistakes. At the end of it, you're trying to build a team around you that can help sustain that next step of growth. And I think it's so just refreshing, to just be around people and hey, yeah, I missed an order and that happens. And one bag, 200, let's forget the 199 that made
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
There's one bag that didn't make it, right? And it's like, well, we're human. There's many things. And I know for me, making that shift and thankfully to my wife, I'm able to focus at work, but making that shift from work and home back and forth in the beginning stages for us was so hard, so hard. And now thankfully it's much easier, but things fall through the crack. And I said earlier, what is it that you do? Because I know there's a lot more than just, oh, we just sell coffee. I mean, someone's handling construction of this historical building, 115-year-old building. Someone's labeling the bags, sealing the bags. Somebody's checking to make sure the temperature's right on the old machines and there's enough coffee. And did the mail get out? Did the bills get paid? Did that get billed? There's so much that goes into it, and it's just you and your husband.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because you realize that, and maybe you don't realize it until you're in it, right? But then you're like, oh crap, what do we get ourselves into? There's so much that you do on a day-to-day basis, but you kind of love it.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, I
it's kind
wouldn't
of
want it
nice.
any other way. I mean, it's hard, and some
Oh yeah.
days are harder than others, and some days are great wins, and we just take the wins and work through the challenges.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's all worth it. And
Oh yeah.
so, like I said, we wouldn't be here. So going on 4 years. So, and people are gracious. We don't mess up all the time. We don't mess up big all the time. And I think that's one of my favorite things about being in business and being a small business owner is the people and the community that we get to meet. And I think that, I can honestly say I have more friends now in this season of life than I have, any other time of life. Because there's just some amazing people and there's just something where you just know working together. They may not even have the same business at all. But they can relate to
Hmm.
those struggles and celebrate with you, in
That's
those
what we do.
successes.
That's
Yeah.
literally all this is for, right? You're like,
Yeah.
you celebrate those wins, you talk about, hey, where you failed, and people can relate, right?
Yeah.
They can relate to the fact that you didn't just clock in today and do your job. No, you never clocked out.
Yeah.
Since the day you started, you never clocked out, and you sleep, eat, everything is always constantly revolving around business, and you're trying to juggle the rest of your life.
Yeah. Like I
At
still
the
have to do laundry. I still have to do grocery shopping. I
right,
got to make
right.
sure my family's fed, get my kid to
Exactly.
school. I mean, like,
Exactly.
yeah.
There's a lot,
So,
and it's but like I said, it's fun. There's times like yesterday I went to lunch with my kids and spent the whole day at the park, and it's like, yeah, but you don't get to do that if you work for somebody else without
yeah.
like properly planning that. That was just kind of like a on the whim thing. Happened to have an open day and we went to the park for 4 hours. That was nice.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't get me wrong, this morning when I got to work, I was like, better catch up from all the work that I didn't do yesterday. But you can make that choice and
Yeah.
it's totally worth it. It's fun.
I'm looking at your website, t3coffeeco.com. You've
Mhm.
got this really cool caffeine molecule necklace. That's awesome. Can you see it?
I can't see it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so
I'll show you in a
Gary,
minute.
Gary does all the roasting, and then I've got
That's
my
cool.
creative outlet. So anything that we can put coffee in or on, we do. Yeah, our caffeine molecules are a bestseller. We have coffee bean necklaces. I actually make earrings with our coffee grounds. And so we
That's
do
cool.
earrings with the coffee grounds, and also with the bags that our coffees come in. We make that out of stuff too. So we try to reuse and repurpose a lot of
What's the
things.
Beautiful Day Loofah soap?
So that's actually a soap. It's got a loofah in the middle of it, but it's actually made with brewed coffee.
I must have.
Now I can see why
Must have
your
it.
house and everything around you smell like coffee.
Yeah. like people say when they pull up in our driveway and get out of their car, you can start smelling the coffee.
Do the earrings smell like coffee?
People say they do.
It's probably that might be a placebo.
It
on
might
that.
it might be, but like I said, I think I've lost my sense of smell. So we go through about 1,000 pounds a week of coffee in our shop, and so
That's crazy.
there's just days
That's
where
crazy.
I
It's a lot of
can't
beans.
I can't smell it. When I go do deliveries, I open the back of my car and people just come flooding, and I'm like, what? Like I can't smell it. Like I'm gonna take your word for it.
It's funny how you do that when you start a business too. You always think like, oh, that must be nice to have to have all the coffee in the world. And it's like, yeah, I guess you kind of get over it. I know it happened this summer. Braden was like, Braden and his wife were like, oh, I want to do plants. I want to do this and that. And I was like, you just go by the office, pick up whatever you want. And they're like, wait, what? I was like, I'm serious. There's just so much. And you're just like, yeah, after a while, you're just kind of come desensitized to it. I know those are beautiful plants. I know that's good coffee, but you're like, yeah, I have so much of it. Yeah, I know what I like, and that's good.
So here's the thing too, green. So as roasters, when we get the coffee, they're green. We get the green beans. They're
You
not
get the
roasted.
green beans?
That's cool.
But they're
Yeah.
white.
Well, I mean, they're
Brown.
called green, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
they're like a pale.
Did you know coffee is actually a cherry?
It's the seed of a
It's a
cherry.
seed of a cherry. Yeah.
No, dude, I just drink it.
Pick
like-
it, and then you usually have to dry it, wash it, dry it, or whatever.
What?
There's a process. Yeah. And then from there, the seed is like really pale. And how it gets to look like normal coffee and brown
That's
is
when it's
by
roasted.
roasting.
Yeah.
What?
So coffee beans are actually a seed. They're not a bean. They're a seed of a fruit, and they are small, hard, and like a pale, depending on green, yellow, white, just kind of depending on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bean.
yeah.
And so they don't smell like coffee. And a lot of them smell. They almost have like a
It smells
grassy,
like a
like a
rice, like a
hay.
grain.
Yeah. And so that's the way we get them. And so when you put them in the roasting, there's a whole transformation that happens to the bean. And so even though it's not the same, it's very similar to popcorn, right? Like you get a popcorn kernel and it's hard and it does not look like popcorn and you don't want to eat it. It will break your teeth.
We've all eaten.
Exactly. So coffee beans are the same. They're hard. They're smaller than the roasted beans. And then when you put them in the roaster, you apply heat, same way you apply the heat to the popcorn.
yeah.
And then they actually grow and expand. They actually lose half their mass and double in size during the roasting
Oh,
process.
wow.
And they crack and pop the same way, that the popcorn does. And so, it's releasing that membrane and the gases and things like that. So, so they actually don't start smelling like what we think of coffee till about the last couple minutes of the roast. So,
It's like
Yeah.
she said earlier.
That's cool.
I don't think about where the coffee goes or
Yeah,
where
right.
it comes
I
from.
do-
I,
Yeah,
just, I
right,
get it.
dude. I just drink it.
it's just always there. Yeah.
I would have thought that it came out. It's brown.
Yeah.
It's a bean. This is
Right.
what it is.
Yeah, it is not doesn't look anything like coffee when we start.
So
with
you
it.
said it's a seed. Have you tried planting and growing a coffee tree?
So
something you said?
yes. So
Cool.
it
I
takes
heard
a couple.
it's difficult to do here.
It is very difficult to do here. We had a friend do it in a greenhouse, and so we
Okay.
actually do have 2 coffee trees at our house. But it takes a couple years, usually 3 to 5 years, I think, for them to actually produce anything. And we just don't have the climate here to do it.
Dang, that's cool. I would have totally tried it too. That's why I had to ask.
Yeah, I mean
I've
you
tried it.
can, but
Why not? My wife tries
You've
to grow
tried
everything.
growing coffee?
We have an avocado tree.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't doubt
Multiple
it.
times.
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
doubt
I
it with
fail
you.
every time because of climate, humidity, temperature.
I had a
Soil's
friend
not
do it
right.
successfully in a greenhouse,
Yeah.
under very, very climate controlled conditions.
Oh yeah.
So when I can finally get my greenhouse, we'll grow some coffee trees. In there.
There you
Just for
go.
the hell of it, because
There
that'll
you
be cool.
go.
Just because.
Yeah.
Just because, dude, it's cool. I'd grow a lime tree because I'd use the limes, but
Yeah.
one coffee tree, there's no way that's gonna supply the coffee we need. It's just be cool to be like, hey, we have a coffee tree,
yeah.
You'd be one of the very few in Oklahoma.
right?
Probably,
mean,
yeah.
I planted some palm trees the other day. That was kind of cool. Didn't know Oklahoma had its very own palm tree. Learned that. I was
I
like,
didn't know
oh,
that.
it's not very pretty.
Want to
but
go to
it's a palm-
Miami?
Huh?
Are they in Miami?
I mean, I think
Oklahoma's palm trees in
I,
Miami.
I think they're in Miami.
It's Miami, right?
Yeah, Miami. They're in Vegas. I know that much.
Yeah, they are in Vegas.
I was like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
wait, we have
Yep.
these in Vegas. I saw these in Vegas, and like, well, this is actually in Oklahoma. It's like McCurtain County down by Broken Bow, super popular. I was like, I've been to Broken Bow many times. I've never seen those
I've
palm
never
trees. Apparently, it's a thing. I was like, wow, very cool.
I wouldn't have known. Okay, so you've got. I want to order some coffee.
Okay.
Walk me through the process.
So we've got a website. So you just go on our website like you do any other place. We have 12-ounce and 32-ounce bags available on our site. We do whole bean and ground, and then we can grind for any setting. So we can grind for drip, we can grind for cold brew, we can grind for
French press.
French press, all the different ways. You just let us know how to grind it, and we'll take care of that for you. Or you can grind it yourself. Obviously, the coffee is going to be fresher if you get whole bean and grind it yourself, but not everybody has that ability, so we understand that. We also do wholesale as well, and so when we get into wholesale, we do 5-pound bags, and then we do 32-pound tubs as well. So
I'm in the wholesale category.
yeah,
That's cool.
there you go. So
and
we
then-
ship nationwide. And then we have a lot of
Yeah.
retail locations around the area as well too, so you can pick bags up.
And then you've got a subscription, which if
do.
I sign up for that, I save 5%.
Mhm. Yeah, so then you don't have to worry about it. You just get coffee shipped to you every month,
Is
How much coffee?
however much you want.
Oh.
Pick 1 bag, 2 bag, 3 bags.
Can I make it?
And
Well, go ahead.
does the mix just come as whatever, or you just pick what kind of coffee you want every month?
You-
Do you
So
have
you
like a random
pick-
category?
So right now we're hopefully that's one of our things to be able to work on and grow. So right now you just pick your blend that you want for the month, and then you create a customer portal, and so you can go in and every month change it. If you don't, you'll just get the same coffee every month.
That's not the worst.
How has that been on the business level? Good. Like, are a bunch of people doing that, or do
Yeah.
people just mainly just order one bag and as needed, or are people like
It's-
loving the subscription? What's that like?
Yeah, people that have it love it, because then you don't have to think about it. It just comes, and you just magically have your coffee.
That's cool.
It reminds me of Lichty. I forget his first name when he came
Harley?
in. The CPA, Harley. He was talking about how you become sticky with customers. Like that's a great way to stay sticky, right? He was like every month. Well, you just forget about it, even if you don't need that coffee. Here you go.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's
Yeah.
reoccurring
It's-
revenue.
right,
So a
it
lot of
works.
businesses like yours don't have
Yes.
reoccurring revenue. So how do you create that consistency
Yeah, it's
and build that
smart.
up? Yeah.
Nice.
And right outside of Skytook, Oklahoma.
Yeah,
right?
just
And
right
that's
down
where
the
your
road.
stores. That's where your shop's gonna go.
In
right?
Collinsville.
In Collinsville.
Yeah,
Okay.
so our shop will be in Collinsville.
Okay. So is that like 116th Street? I know where the Jim Glover is. Is that 106 at Jim Glover?
So that's more of a Wasso.
Is that
Yeah.
a Wasso? So
Yeah, so
116th is
Collinsville-
Collinsville, right?
Yeah. But
No,
so we're off of
Collinsville's
Main
away.
Street. Yeah, so 116th is the cutoff between Owasso and
That's right.
Collinsville. So we're off of Main Street.
that's
So when you're going up, what is that, 146? Maybe just
I was
go a
gonna say
couple
it's
more
like
miles.
166 or something like that. It's
Something
pretty
like
far
that.
up there. 116th is still Owasso. I mean, Collinsville address.
Isn't it like one side of the streets a
Yes,
Collinsville
that's
address
exactly
and
what
one
it
side's
is.
a
Yeah.
Wasso?
That's what to me. I'm like that's still Owasso. That's like one street that's populated, and then the rest of it is pretty well still bare land. But I got a great seed supplier out there. That's a nice little farm.
Oh yeah, I know
Holman Seed?
exactly where that is. I have a friend
Yeah.
that lives down there.
Man, I love Holman Seed. They got the best seed around. It's awesome. I love going out there. It's all old school.
So we're about
you
5
know.
minutes from there.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, Collinsville's right. I mean, it's
Well,
right
yes,
there. It's
yeah.
not far. And then like the Collinsville has a great main street. It is just an awesome hidden gem in the area because we've got all the old buildings. There's a great mix of businesses down there. It's just a great community to be a part of.
Cool.
This has been like an aroma-filled world with Linda and T3. Is there anything that you want to pitch in last minute or any questions?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Out of all your blends, what is your favorite?
Oh, that's got to be hard.
I know it's got to be hard, but it's hers, so she's got to have one favorite.
I would bet 9 out of 10 for me would be the Guatemalan blend.
So it depends how I'm brewing it.
Okay.
Fair
So
enough.
I have different roasts for different brew methods.
Cold brew.
So cold brew is our Kuna Matata, or our El Burro, which is our newest coffee, and it'll be on our website pretty soon. It's a Nicaraguan coffee,
Ooh, another good
but
one.
a Kuna Matata makes an amazing cold brew.
It's no worries for the rest of your days.
Days.
It's good. Good one. You got
Yeah.
anything? You got any questions for us? Think of anything?
I don't know. This has just been a lot of fun. I'm just glad to be here and hang out with you guys.
It is fun.
It's not morning, it's afternoon, right? I
It's
don't even know.
afternoon.
Yeah.
But it's good coffee.
Well, yeah,
I like the
thanks.
coffee.
I'm about to pour the rest of that in here in a minute. Well, if you guys want to order any of the coffee, look in the show notes or in the YouTube description, and you will find a link to shop their coffees and merchandise. Support local. Small Business Saturday is right around the corner, so
And we will be
Um,
open that day.
good.
So that'll be our first day to be open, November 25th. We also have Facebook, so that's a great place to check us out. That's where we post all of our updates, our building updates, if
New
we're new
blends.
blends, sales, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna have a holiday coffee coming out in the next couple weeks. So that's always a great coffee.
We get a hint on what it's going to be flavored.
So it's gonna be a Costa Rican coffee. So I haven't actually tried it yet.
Santa's going to the beach with our coffee.
Ayo.
There you go.
And follow T3 on Facebook and Instagram. It's T3 Roasters on both Facebook and Instagram, so it's pretty easy to remember. Yeah, support local. It's a big deal, and it helps. And you buy from Starbucks and Dutch Bros or whatever these big corporate chains.
Big
I
chains.
mean, yeah, it it helps supply jobs or whatever. But when you buy from local and support local, you're helping families put more than just food on the table. You're helping put their kids through classes or extracurricular activities and things like that too. So I know that's big. Tulsa's really big on supporting local and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
They
will
are.
say.
I love there's that meme that goes around that I say it all the time that says when you support from a small business and an actual person does a happy dance, and I can promise you that we legitly do happy
Yep.
dances.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we do.
I've got
We
videos
did
of
I can
us
attest
doing
to
that.
that.
Yeah.
We shed the tears and we dance and we celebrate, and it's real. I can show you the videos.
Yeah.
that's so cool. All right. Well, Linda, appreciate you bringing the coffee. I've enjoyed
Yeah,
it. I've loved it.
good.
Yeah, it's good.
I will need to place an order for like 5 pounds of whatever you would recommend for the espresso.
Yeah, 601.
601. This one here.
Yep.
Okay. I'll do that. And then usually I get from Nordagios.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna get you guys this time.
Thanks.
So we'll do
What's
that.
Nordagios? Is that another coffee place?
Mhm.
There's
Okay.
it's another local roaster. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, appreciate you. If you think of anything else that you got questions, send us an email, and then we'll wrap this up. Oh, there's the timer.
All right.
That's perfect timing. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us on the Brews and Business podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah.
See you.
Coffee, man.
I didn't even realize I had coffee sitting there.
Oh, my bad.
What'd you think?
That's fun.
I learned a lot.